All right, want to continue to follow developments there at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where there are reports that an individual, there was a shooting, at least one person injured, and there is a picture now released of what's being described as a person of interest. And this person is still at large, as we understand it, and considered, of course, armed and dangerous. Jessie Jane Duff is joining us also here. Could you talk for a moment about, you're somebody, a Marine, has dealt with arms. When somebody is described as armed and dangerous, you can hear me now? Mm-hmm. Okay. When someone's described as armed and dangerous, what are your first thoughts in dealing with them?
You have to secure the perimeter. You have to ensure that there are no civilians that are present. So it's important that you evacuate the premises, evacuate the immediate area, and ensure that everybody is safe. That is the first and foremost. Because if you try to go take somebody out and there is somebody beyond the target who could receive fire, you're certainly not making the situation any better. So your primary concern immediately is the safety and well-being of those who could be considered hostages or those that have been probably potentially under the duress of this attack. But then once you've secured the perimeter and have ensured that you don't have anyone who could potentially get caught in a line of fire, it is imperative that they clear the building and they go in and strategically find this shooter.
Like we saw in Nashville, by the way.
Right.
As they went one room to another until they found
Sweep
him.
it. They have to start sweeping it. And they have massive ways of detection, too. It's not like these officers go in there blind. Right. And they're very well trained, and they have the armament to protect themselves in case they receive fire. But it is a dangerous job. But if you know how to manage your firearms, you know that you're not going to fire. You have to know what's beyond your line of target so that you're not shooting an innocent person. But again, they got to get better security in these schools. How many times we got to go through this?
Yeah, Jessie Jane, I want to take a step back here. This is still an ongoing situation, we understand, at UNC at Chapel Hill. They are advising everyone to shelter in place. So you said, okay, you want to lock down the perimeter and, of course, get anyone who can get injured away. But explain more what is going on in a shelter in place scenario. We can all guess what it sounds like, but what's the reality?
So, for example, if you're in your dorms, stay in your dorms. Don't start walking outside. Ensure your doors are locked, your windows are secured so that you're not exposing yourself to the line of fire if you have a shooter that is randomly out there. You also want to make sure that you stay away from your windows. You're not glued to it's almost like a hurricane or a tornado. You don't stand right near the window to watch because you could receive fire then. So securing in place is the responsibility of those that could potentially be at risk. Make sure that you also don't have any distractions that could alert or alarm the shooter to find you, your location. For example, your cell phone should be on mute. You should ensure that you're not having any activity that is loud. Don't start playing your music. You have to make sure that you're quiet so that the officers can locate and find the person who is actually causing harm upon these students.
Yeah, and you know, I have a friend who's a cop and talks about when people talk about encountering a suspect who's armed. The idea of shooting them in the leg or anywhere else, he says, okay, let's say you did that and miss.
And miss.
That's why they shoot to kill. That's why they shoot to neutralize the suspect.
It's called lethal force for a reason, and you have justifiable reason to ensure that that shooter is no longer capable of firing, continuing to fire. You fire, you make sure that they are no longer holding their weapon. You ensure if they're still alive that you kick the weapon away. You cannot allow somebody who's been shot in the leg to still be holding onto their weapon because many of these people are amped up on some type of drug. They don't feel what's happened to them. And if you're thinking you're just going to neutralize them by shooting a leg, I'm telling you right now, when you look at what the Marines went through in combat with the ISIS fighters, they were amped up on a methamphetamine, some drug concoction, and they kept coming. You had to literally kill them to stop them from attacking you. And that often is the case. These people, more often than not, are not mentally stable, let alone can you assume to be sober and feel pain.
And Jessie Jane, we're seeing here that the UNC UNC issued this alert to the campus community shortly after 1 p.m. So we're coming up on almost 2 hours here. And once again, a developing situation, reports still saying that this image we're looking at here is a person of interest, but there is no custody, or excuse me, there's no suspect in custody at this point. Again, what is the strategy there then on the ground? What would you be doing at this point?
You know, and not knowing all the information, have they already abandoned the campus? You know, that would be the next concern. Like, are they already off site and you're now locking, yes, the suspect, and you've locked down your campus. So this is up for those law enforcement professionals. I would assume that they also have helicopter support, air support, that they have dogs present who can sniff through these rooms. They can also ensure that they have any witnesses coming forward, because they have a description of the individual. So where was he last seen? What direction was he last going?
And also just communicating becomes a crucial component of this. Number one, to know to shelter in place, and number two, if somebody did see him, I assume now, especially these kids are all, you know, native social media people, and they would be able to communicate with police. I saw him. Here's where he is.
Yeah, and to that point, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper actually on the X platform, formerly Twitter, specifically said, I have spoken with Orange County Sheriff Blackwood and Department of Public Safety Secretary Buffalo and pledged all state resources needed to capture the shooter and protect the UNC campus. So to your point, Jesse Jane, you know, all necessary help seems to have been sent to this area to help them in their search.
Yeah, they're having a massive recall of even officers who may be off duty, because they have to ensure that the entire community is safe. If this individual has managed to leave the campus undetected, you could potentially have another problem elsewhere in the city, if not even leaving the state. So they have to be really sharp on what's going on.